Today on The Rise of Entrepreneur, we have someone who has a compelling story, someone who has seen the highs of the financial success and also face public scandal. This gentleman is called the bad boy of Wall Street, and he has done a lot of things in his life, taking over 100 companies public. We have Ross Mandell here with us. Ross, thank you for being on the show.
Albert, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful. It's great to see you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. There's a lot of people that want to know the true story of Ross Mandell. There's a lot of people that are confused with the things that are said about you. There are things that are publicized about you. And I believe that it's always best to hear from the person's mouth, right?
100%. And you're going to get my truth, Albert. I'm here to answer your questions and entertain your audience and let you know who I am, what I am, and what I'm doing.
A lot of things happen in your life where a lot of people discredit your success, discredit what you have done in your life that was, notable, right? That was great to see. And a lot of people portray as a villain rather than a hero. So tell me who you are and tell me, what should people know about you?
I like to say I'm a regular guy, Albert. I don't have any airs about me. There's no phoniness. I'm not a bullshitter.
Okay.
I'm authentic. I'm raw.
Okay.
I'm myself. And maybe that's one of the reasons why people came after me. I was a little too brazen, arrogant, maybe braggadocio. I should have maybe been a little bit under the radar, a little more subtle.
Yep.
Early in my career on the street, I was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and my disease progressed through my career, and it caused me all kinds of problems. And, they say the file stays with you, especially in that kind of in a regulated business. That file never goes away.
When we say the file, we're referring to reputation.
No. Reputation is something that is deemed is earned or spoke about by other people.
Okay.
That's your reputation, right? What you say about me, what John says about me, etc. Could be what newspapers write about me. But the file in a regulated business is a collection of documents. It's a record of events that occurred, and I was a drug addict and alcoholic from the time I was 16.
Yep.
My father passed away in 1973, September 27th. And I reacted very badly. I started smoking weed right after his funeral, and it made me feel better because I was in tremendous pain. My father was my life. I was the oldest son. I was an athlete. I was a student. I was a God-fearing good kid. And he passed of a heart attack suddenly on the Rosh Hashanah evening, which is Erev Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. Mm-hmm. It's a happy occasion.
Yep.
Got sick at dinner. He took him to the hospital. I never saw him again. They buried him. My cousin saw that I was crying and hysterical and confused. I smoked some weed. I took 2 hits of pot. And I just felt better. And I proceeded to get high every single day for the next 17 years.
Wow.
Now, I did go to finish high school. I finished college. Basically partied my way through.
Understood. Yep.
Somehow I graduated. I was always a smart kid. I was always well read. I was a good student.
Yep.
I did testing well, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't pay attention to anything. I didn't care about anything.
Yep.
I didn't fear anything.
Yep.
I really didn't care if I lived or died. I was that pathetic. I was very self-centered, and I felt betrayed by the world, by God, etc. I learned the day that my father died that we didn't own anything. The audience should know owning things is very important in life.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to buy anything, but everybody wants to own things. It's a salesman's trick, but in real life, I found out that everything we had was mortgaged, borrowed, and leased.
Yeah.
And my plans for life were completely altered the day my father passed away.
Understood.
Now, my mother had a nervous breakdown, didn't leave bed for a year. I didn't worry about her. My brother closed his door and just retreated inside himself. I didn't care about my brother. I was so consumed with my own anger. God had died. And so I eventually get to Wall Street. And
Before we get to Wall Street,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that our audience understands, okay? Prior to your father dying, who were you then?
good kid.
Good kid.
Good kid.
No drugs, no bad environment.
No, I was an athlete, a jock.
Okay.
I was a good athlete. I played football, high school football. I was on a wrestling team. I was a weightlifter, power lifter, very fit.
How many
And,
brothers or sisters?
I have a younger brother,
You have a younger
3
brother.
years younger. His name is Lawrence Mandell. However, he made Aliyah to Israel in 1984. He changed his name to Kalev Ben David, which is son of David in Hebrew, and our father was David. He did that to honor our father. Kalev is his favorite biblical character. He was one of Joshua's spies that went into see if the land of milk and honey that was promised to Jews was worthy.
Okay.
And there was one spy from each tribe, and 11 spies said, forget it. It's a dump. It's inhabited by giants. We'll get killed. There's walls. It's not worth it.
Sure.
Let's stay where we are. God's giving us manna from heaven. We're eating.
Yep.
We're going to get killed if we go in there. It's not worth it. And a guy named Kalev said, I disagree. It's the promised land. It's the land of milk and honey.
Interesting.
And so my brother adopted that name. Today, he is the single most popular broadcaster in the entire Middle East. He has a 2-hour show, 5 nights a week from 6 to 8 on national television, ITV 24 out of Tel Aviv. He broadcasts in English, and they show him all around the world.
Okay.
He's on prime time 10 hours a week, and
Nice.
this is his 6th year in a row of the show. Give you an idea, Marco Rubio was just named Secretary of State for the Trump administration. So
Yeah.
when the administration comes into office, Marco Rubio is Secretary of State. The first thing Marco Rubio did was fly to Israel because there are Americans being held hostage.
Right.
You think Joe Biden would do something about that? There are Americans being held hostage in Gaza today. And you don't see that on the news. You don't see the White House talking about it. It's pathetic. And Marco Rubio, the first thing he did was go on television in Israel to let Israel know his intention. He's very pro-Israel. Trump
Okay.
is very pro-Israel.
Yeah.
They want to end Hamas. They want to end Hezbollah. They want to bring home the hostages. No more terrorism.
Okay.
Fuck Iran, etc. Hold on. So the first thing he did was go on my brother's show and do a 2-hour interview. So that's who my brother is.
Understood. Tell me, you don't speak much about your mother.
Correct.
Okay. What's your relationship at that time when your father passes or before?
I had a very tough relationship with my mother. She had now 2 boys, 16 and 13. Really, we were my father's kids, 2 boys. You have 2 daughters and a son.
That's right.
Your son will gravitate to you over time, much more so. You'll take him to Little League or
Yep.
football and Pee-wee football. Jiu-jitsu,
Wrestling, yep.
all that good stuff.
Yep.
Guy stuff, right?
Yep.
You're quite an alpha male yourself. I mean, I hope the audience can appreciate how you decked that out. But
Thank you.
If I told you look like $1 million, I feel like I cheated you.
I appreciate that.
You look like 15 million.
I
You
appreciate
look
that.
amazing.
Thank you.
This audience should know. But the women tend to, I have 2 daughters, they gravitate towards the moms. They have to get dresses and hair done and nails,
Yeah.
all things that guys don't know, really not as well versed in. So my mother had these 2 boys. She was mom, and she had a nervous breakdown, and she had no money, and we didn't know what to do. And she had to scrap and make sure we're okay. And she recently passed away. She just passed away July 5th
I'm sorry to hear that.
in Israel, in my brother's house, which I bought for him 20 years ago.
Wow.
And before he was a big shot on television. And I had a very, very contentious relationship with my mother. I basically left home when I was 17 and never really went back.
So Ross Mandell at 17 leaves home. uses drugs, turns into cocaine, where do you find your ambition to wanting to succeed? Is money important? Do you know what you want to do at 17, or you're just trying to figure it out?
I didn't care. That's the great thing. I wasn't concerned with these things. You know, I coach a lot of men today, young men, and I love that the men that come to me are so. They have businesses, they have families, they're young. I didn't have a family till I was 42 years old. I was in no shape to be a parent. I look at this stuff very seriously. I just wanted to live my life a little bit. So I didn't care about business success. I always looked at myself as I'm a guy, I'm a man. That's how I was raised. But I just wanted to get high, and I wanted to be cool, and I wanted to be with women, and I wanted to be thought of as a sort of manly, studly guy. I hung out with the popular guys because the popular kids would use drugs and party. The thing is, they would stop at a certain time and go home, and I would keep going. And it's expensive to get high, to drink, to have nice clothes, to have a nice car, to go to great places, to be cool, to impress women. That's what I was really concerned with. I was very shallow.
It's expensive to keep up with them.
Correct. So I had to get money. I only looked to get money to fund my lifestyle. And I followed the crowd of sort of hip guys that were concerned with important things like business, the future, savings, build a family, and all that.
Understood.
And I was popular. I was a good guy to know because I had no inhibitions. Because when you're high, stoned, drunk, you can just behave in a certain way that
Feel invincible.
Something like that. Like Buddy Love.
Yeah.
You take a pill and 20 minutes later you're Buddy Love. You know what I mean?
What's more important to you, character or reputation?
Character is who you really are. Reputation is what other people think you are.
Right.
I never gave a shit what anybody thinks of me. That's a mistake, by the way. I believe that you should curate your image. Look at that guy. I mean, I learned that word from Tiffany, whose studio was sort of who owns a building, who's in the building. She's a big decorator in Palm Beach, and she curates a lifestyle. It's not about decorating a home. She curates your lifestyle, and you live in that design and that curation. So I believe it's important to manage and curate your reputation. But I didn't know that then. I didn't care. I didn't give a shit what you thought of me. I didn't really know what I thought of me. I wrote a book called Rock Solid at the urging of a lovely guy named Adrian who ran Penguin Publishing back in 2013. And he asked me what is my process? How do I, facing 12 years in prison at 57 years old, could be almost a death sentence. And he said, you have this hanging over your head. They could take you in any minute. How do you look good? How do you sound good? You're okay. Mm-hmm. What's your process? He goes, I'd pay for that. So I wrote a book that shares my process. And so I'm very different today than the guy I described earlier.
Interesting. What changed?
I grew up. I got sober. I spent 7 years in psychoanalysis with Dr. Arthur Knauert, a very famous psychiatrist who passed away. A lot of the success in my life I owe to him, and he's treated so many people that I know. He's amazing. I got sober in 1990 in Connecticut at the Silver Hill Foundation. A little shout out, New Caney, Connecticut, one of the greatest facilities in the world. And I lived the 12 steps of recovery.
Yep.
And a lot of that is about taking personal inventory and about making amends to people that you've harmed, and about accountability.
Yes.
And about doing service, about meditation, about seeking God's will, and extending a hand to people that need it.
Yep.
And that became a big part of my life, the giving back.
Love that.
And those 12 steps are brilliant technology that I needed to stay clean, to be sober, to do good. And after I got clean, that's what led me to my wife Stephanie, who I got married to when I was 41 years old.
Yep.
We had our first child at 42, beautiful daughter named Skylar, hence Sky Capital.
Gotcha.
Then we had a second girl, Sydney Dior. And we would have had another one or two, but that's when the government came in and raided my place, which was completely uncalled for.
Yeah.
Outrageous. It was Lawfare. And, the FBI pulled the same thing on somebody this morning, just so you know. They raided a home of the crypto guy, the guy that did the sports betting site that said that Trump was going to win and all that kind of stuff. They went
Russ, I
after
want to
him.
pull you back to the question, okay?
Yes.
Character or reputation?
Character's everything.
Character is everything.
Yes, but if you can curate a good reputation, it's fantastic.
Okay. So at what point in your life did you start to notice that, okay, I got to start thinking about what people think of me? Do you care about what your kids think of you?
That is really the really only thing that matters, is the people that I love. She's not my ex-wife, but I love her, and she's my best friend still, and my two daughters. It's most important what they think of me. So everything I do now is about changing the narrative of my life story. The nonsense that happened with the government, going to trial, the incarceration, the prosecution, the litigation, all that, it's nonsense.
Yep.
Is going to be a footnote when my story is ultimately told. That's the goal, building a legacy, a new reputation, Albert, when they discuss me down the road or in the future.
Understood. Now, when you went to prison, you did 9 years, right?
9 years, 4 months in federal custody.
9 years
correct.
and 4 months in federal prison. Okay. At that moment, how old are your children when you're being taken away? That you're going.
Well, I wasn't taken away. I got to check in.
Oh, you had to
I was
check in.
going
Okay,
to the
got it.
Ritz-Carlton.
Okay.
I had what they call self-surrender.
Okay.
Even though I fought the government every step of the way,
Yep.
I fought the entire time in prison, and I'm still
fighting.
tried to clear my name, just so you know. I intend to, by the way. But my daughters were 11 and 14,
Wow.
and it was really tough for them.
Yeah. Very important time in their life.
Right. And just so you know, all my life I worried about me first.
Okay.
When I walked out of that house and when I went away, I suffered because they suffered. All I cared about, my prayers to God were, please take care of my family, bring all the pain to me. I
Yes.
begged God.
Right.
I begged him. And God answered my prayers, by the way. He gave me a lot of the pain. He gave me all the pain. I asked for it. He gave it to me. And my family did amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really crazy.
You talked about, being able to go out there and make amends, make things right. Okay?
Correct.
Does a name Richard Conway ring a bell?
Richard Conway?
Yeah.
It does not.
He's a pastor who invested within you and your company back in the day. And he's on a show, American Greed, the episode that's about you.
That was David Ash.
Was it David Ash? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
He was the one guy that they brought on.
Okay.
He was not my client.
He was not your personal client. But
Never did a deal with him.
Never
took a dime from him. Never pitched him. Nothing.
Okay.
Never sued me, by the way.
Right. Okay.
He was dealing with a guy called Arn Wilson. Arn Wilson worked for Sky Capital. At one point, I had 4,000 people on my payroll. That's true.
4,000 agents working, brokers,
People on my payroll.
People on your payroll.
You know, hundreds of stockbrokers, traders, bond guys. We owned portfolio companies that I invested in. I was the CEO of two public companies. And the public companies owned multiple other companies.
Sure.
We had
companies,
factories
yeah.
with 500 people with making products, all these different things. But I had to make sure payroll was met for 4,100 people at my height, so you know. This guy was an investor with this young man, Arn Wilson, and apparently at one point it came to my attention that this is before Sky Capital, by the way. He never did business in Sky Capital, this guy.
Wow.
Correct.
Why do you think American Greed portrayed your story in a way where he did invest with you, that you completely ruined his life, and you took his money and put him and his wife in a position where they had to lose $2 million?
Okay, so if you really listen to the whole thing, you'll see that's not exactly what happened. But he invested with Arn Wilson. Arn Wilson, and he invested with Arn Wilson because Arn Wilson pitched me as somebody that's very successful. I'm going to do all these great things. And at the time that I met David Ash, I only met him twice in my life, only spoke to him 3 times, so you know. So what they portray on TV is all bullshit.
Interesting.
Because they had to show that there was something. Because they raided this place, they called all the media, they brought a case 3 years later. They had nothing. Nothing on me, nothing on the company. We did nothing wrong.
And zero.
They lied to get the search warrant. They lied. The federal agent, Kurt Dengler, who now works for Goldman Sachs, admitted that he made a mistake. He was wrong. He lied to get the search warrant. Flat out lie. In writing for the world to see.
One
And
thing
I'll
that's
explain that.
interesting about your case is they claim that there's many victims, but there's 0 lawsuits against you.
0. And when you cheat people today, you get sued. Jordy Belfort cooperated with the government, wore a wire, brought 50 arrests, indictments against some kids that he brought in. He had hundreds of lawsuits, hundreds of victims that formed Facebook groups, went to the government. What the hell? He's in a movie. He's living here. He's doing this. 0 I have because I didn't cheat anybody. David Ash lost money with Arn Wilson. Arn Wilson came to me nearly hysterical, showed me the trading, all the things that he did, and Arn Wilson did some things that were not right. And I wanted to see if I could make it up to this David Ash. He's obviously he has money. He invested a lot of money with this guy, Arn Wilson. And Sky Capital was just going public. And we had a lot of stock. I mean, I made everybody a fortune. I said I was going to take a company, I was going to build it and take it public, and I did. First American ever to bring a regulated American business public on the London Stock Exchange. 350 years old. All our stock exchanges are patterned after the London Stock Exchange. I did that twice before anybody did it once.
Right.
So we had a lot of success, a lot of stock. So I said to David Ash, we're going to take the stock that you bought from Arn Wilson, and we're going to convert it into Sky Capital stock. So now you will have hundreds of thousands of shares of Sky Capital stock, which would be several $1 million, and you're free to sell it. And he chose not to because he believed it was going much higher, and it was going much higher.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd never done a deal with him. He never put $1 with me. He never bought a thing for me. I gave him the stock in exchange for stock that Arn Wilson sold to him that didn't work out. And then the FBI raided our place in 2006, November of 2006. And the London Stock Exchange suspended trading on our stock and said, we'll open the stock when the government says they're not going to indict Sky Capital. And the government would not return the stock exchange's phone calls. And no one got indicted or charged for 3 years,
Yeah.
till 2009. This is in 2006. This is the story that's never told. The government created the crime. The government created the loss. David Ash still has hundreds of thousands of shares of Sky stock. But because the government raided, when all they had to do was service a subpoena, like they had done, like the SEC does, the NASD did, FINRA did, the stock exchange did, all we do is turn over all the records.
Right.
And so they came in, guns blazing, 40 guys. Guy throws me against the wall, says, give us the guns and drugs, and it'll go easy on you.
Weren't you meeting with U.S. senators at the same time?
It was a board meeting, correct. There was a board meeting going on. We had a United States Senator, 3-term United States Senator from South Dakota, the Honorable Senator Larry Pressler. two-time congressman, state of Maryland, former NBA basketball star, All-American player at the University of Maryland, Tom McMillan, C. Thomas McMillan, Rhodes Scholar. He was Bill Clinton's roommate at Oxford. Matthew Carrington, an MP, member of Parliament, on the Treasury Select Committee, which is the Ethics Committee, investigating Barings Bank on behalf of the Crown. Our chairman was Alexander Dumas, appointed to Parliament as an advisor from the country of Albania, a chartered accountant and a solicitor, a barrister, a lawyer in England. I had a collection of the most prominent people in the world. And if you look at American Greed, they say Tom Homan was on my board. Do you know who Tom Homan is?
I do not.
Okay. He was just appointed by President-elect Donald Trump to be the border czar. He's the number 2 man at Homeland Security. He went on my board and vouched for me for 4 years, right up until the government came in. Ian Bremmer, he was appointed by Bush to run and oversee Iraq after 9/11. He was on my board. You don't hear these stories. These men met me, knew me, examined me, vouched for me. A players, just so you understand.
Why didn't they defend you? Why didn't these people come to the front and say, Ross Mandell is not guilty. He shouldn't have served 9
I'm going to answer that question now. I'm going to tell you the truth about this. I'm not sure that it's come out once or twice. We got a call after the indictment was unsealed, and I went to court. And I said, all right, we're just going to call the senator. We're going to call this. These guys called my attorney and begged us not to call them as witnesses and ask them for testimony, because the prosecutors threatened them and said, if you decide to defend Mandel, we're going to indict you. You were on his board. You served on his advisory board. You had stock accounts with him. You made money. If you come forward, we're going to indict you. This is what the prosecutors in Manhattan said.
Interesting.
I was a victim of lawfare. Nobody understands that could happen in America. Right. Oh, you think, if something happens, the government. You saw with Donald Trump how the New York prosecutors, they created a crime. They create this stuff, and then they go ahead and they squeeze and they try and break you.
94 counts, right?
Guy is 78 years old, never has a felony indictment in his life. All of a sudden, they hit him with 92 counts. You think that's legit? Does anybody think the prosecution of Trump when he was running in New York and Georgia is legit? These prosecutors ran on a platform that we're going to get Donald Trump. Not that someone commits a crime and we're going to arrest them. That's their job. Okay? But we're going to get some guy, even if he didn't do anything wrong. That's what happened to me.
There's a recording of you on American Greed telling your agents, brokers at that time, not to sell the stock, to protect the stock. However, you mentioned earlier that David Ash was given an opportunity to go and sell his stock.
He was given hundreds of thousands of shares of free trading stock, and he decided not to sell it. And he's still holding it. And if the United States government didn't come marching in to Sky Capital on a raid and then refused to address any inquiries from the London Stock Exchange. They never indicted, by the way, Sky Capital. I sold it. They approved the sale in March of 2008. And the buyers were very serious people that bought me out and put $10 million of fresh money into the company. But that was 2008, and you know what happened in 2008 and 2009? They're too big to fail. Okay, all the banks failed. AIG, the largest A-plus rated insurance company in the world, needed a $100 billion
Lehman Brothers
bailout. Lehman Brothers zeroed out. Best. I mean, it's atrocious what happened. Nobody got arrested but me. And actually, at my trial, the prosecutors said to the jury, I'm responsible for the 2008-09 crash. I'm responsible. I'm the reason why they're all out of work, by the way. There was like 5 people that were unemployed, out of work. I'm the one. Me, pointing at me. The United States government is telling you that. Just lying to the jury. Lying. If I'm on that jury, I would have freaking shot me. It was such bullshit.
Do you think if you had a better attorney, you would have end up winning this case, or do you think
There
no
never
matter-
would have been a case. So it turns out my attorney was protecting his partner, who was our corporate lawyer,
Okay.
Stephen Altman, who ended up getting disbarred for 18 months. But they played ball. They traded me for Steve Altman. And he was a clear conflict of interest. My attorney was representing his partner in my case
Right.
against me while he's representing me. And I brought that up and filed a motion. But my Judge Karate, has never ruled against the government on any motion. Judicial Watch will tell you that. You don't
How
have to
much
take my word
money
for it.
did you spend defending this case or try to defend
Over
this
$3
case?
million.
Over $3 million.
Yes. I believed in America. I believed in the legal system. I really believed that if you didn't commit the crime, you can't get convicted. I really believed in that. And, I'd heard through the course of my life, people talking about how the corruption, a lot of the minorities, they get picked on. They go to jail, this and that, and they say, do anything wrong. We figure they do something wrong anyway. I had no idea the level of corruption in our justice system, ever. I was shocked. And shame on me, really, that I'm so naive. I mean, you told me a little bit about your history. And so you understand corruption in government, how dirty things can be.
Yep.
Just human beings on the take, pushing an agenda, lining their pockets. There's so much dirt and corruption in our government, our system. That's why Trump got elected. And that's why they're going to clean house. Every agency, FDA, FBI, DEA, you name it. He's going to rip them apart, and I'm excited for that.
Just to be clear, and for all of our audiences that maybe
Yes.
know who you are or getting to know you, you're saying you never committed any crime,
No,
ever.
I never say that. I'm not an angel.
Okay.
I did a lot of things in my life. People that are really close to me, that know me well, say it's karma. You got away with so many things over the course of your life.
Interesting.
And I'm looking at the camera and I'm telling you that's true. I was a drug addict. I was an alcoholic. I did some bad things. But after I got sober in 1990 and I came back into the business, I never lied, cheated, oversold, undersold, misdeeded, or anything. What they claim happened never happened. And I'm going to explain this to you. There are different ways to commit a crime and get arrested, right? I see you walking on the street as a handsome guy. I hit you in the head. I grab your watch. I grab your wallet, and I run away. And a cop sees me, and he runs. He catches me. I'm arrested.
Sure.
Right? He's a witness to a crime.
Yep.
That's an arrest. That's a crime. Boom, right?
Yep.
He's a witness. He rounds up another two people that saw that. You testify, whatever. Then there's I was not witnessed committing any crime. Then there's an indictment where they study a pattern of things.
Yep.
And they come up with some formulaic thing. And they say, aha, so he was doing this, he was doing that, he was illegally buying these things from a restricted country, bring them into the United States, selling them at crazy markups. All right, we're going to make a case. They create an indictment, okay? In my case, they raided us, 40 FBI agents in the middle of the day, in the middle of a board meeting, asking for guns and drugs. We're bankers, we're traders, we're stockbrokers. We have a beautiful office on Wall Street. They locked everybody down, took everybody's ID. After they find out there's no guns and drugs, I told the guy, go fuck yourself. What are you talking about? He asked me to leave my own office, gets on his cell phone, and for 20 minutes he's calling, I guess the U.S. attorney saying, we got some bad information. They said, do it anyway. He comes out, he says, all right, Mr. Mandell, you can call your lawyers, and we'll be done here today. We're just going to collect, we're going to execute a search warrant, which was fraudulently gotten, by the way, and I'll explain that if you're interested. Because it's a fact, and you can just go on the public record. It's one of the great things. You don't have to be a judge. You can look and you make your own determination. That's what I love about this stuff. And he says, we're just going to we're here to collect some papers, clone your computers. Fine. We don't do anything wrong. They took 300 boxes of our stuff. We're a regulated business. You need all these documents. But they took 300 boxes. They put them in a warehouse. And literally 2.5 years later, they gave me access. When I went to trial, they were using some of those documents in the trial. They made me pay to get copies of the very documents that are my documents because they had FBI numbers on them. It costs over $100,000. So they try and break you. They were dying to get me to plea. They want me to make a deal because I had no case. I didn't do anything wrong. Everything was a lie.
What about your brokers going against you, betraying you, wearing wires, saying that you were manipulating, you were telling them not to sell stock, you were doing all the wrong things, and they followed you?
Okay, so here's the thing. There's a bunch of guys in my firm. Now, I'm running two public companies. Okay, I'm the CEO of two public companies. The stock brokerage business was a big part of the company, but it was just one part. Because of my past, I wasn't even allowed to fully manage the brokerage firm. We brought in guys named Michael Recca and Stephen Shea, who got indicted. They were in charge of the brokerage firm. Their licenses. They were in charge of the actual brokerage firm. It's a heavily regulated industry. And I was running around the country. I wasn't even in town when 3/4 of the things happened. There were a few brokers like Phil Kell that were did bad things, cheated customers, sold drugs to the FBI. Okay, they should have been kicked out of the business. They should have got some probation, whatever. But once you sell cocaine to the FBI agent, the FBI squeeze you and says, listen, you go to jail for 30 years. We got you.
Yep.
They have on audio tape and videotape. Not me. I didn't do anything wrong.
But he wore the wire.
So then after he sells the drugs to the FBI, because I went to trial, so I had access to all his evidence, he disappears, and 3 days later he comes into the office where he's wired up.
Did you know he was wired up?
Of course not. How would you know? How would you know? He
You
told me his mother
trusted
was
him.
in the hospital. He told me his mother was in the hospital. She was very sick. I gave him money to help him. Correct. A real piece of shit. I hope he gets to watch this.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he then spent like 3 months in the firm. And what he did was he got other guys saying stupid things because some of these guys did some bad things. I'm not going to say they didn't. Nothing that would warrant jail, prison, or criminality, but definitely violations of the securities laws. I didn't know any of this till I went to trial.
Should you have known?
Well, that's what Judge Crotty said at my sentencing. He said to me, if you didn't know, you should have known. And then they said, I probably broke the law. Not beyond a reasonable doubt. All that went out the window. It was a big scam. And I just hope your audience is aware enough, not as naive like I was, because if you've seen what just recently happened in front of the whole world, the indictments of Trump lawfare, they just dropped everything. Jack Smith just resigned from the DOJ. All of a sudden, nobody's going to imprison Trump, and everything's being dropped because he didn't really do anything wrong. They valued Mar-a-Lago at $18 million in the real estate case. That's what the judge and the prosecutor agreed on, $18 million. Yeah. They say today it's worth $1.5 billion. Who lied? The prosecutor. Who lied? The judge. Okay? But this is America, and the justice system is really fucked. And I really hope that Trump, some of his people hear this. Matt Gaetz is going to be an amazing attorney general. He's going to get to the level of some of the corruption. They got to cut it out. It's like cancer. America was a great, respected nation. Now it's laughed at around the world. We're a joke. And it's time to, it's from the top down. It's just so broken and corrupt. And I'm so jaded about it. But I want you to know, I did my time. I didn't lie and set somebody else up. I could have given them a senator. I could have given them a congressman. I could have given them a member of parliament. I could have said they did something wrong. They lied. They stole. They all traded stocks. They all made money. I could have done these things, and I would have got no jail time. And I would have ruined other people's lives. That's not who I am. I did that time, and I'm still fighting to clear my name.
Wow.
The U.S. attorney from the Southern District of Florida in Miami, in open court, on the record said, yes, the DOJ withheld documents that could have exonerated me. He said it.
You mentioned something earlier about Jordan Belfort, the man that many call the Wolf of Wall Street.
Correct.
There's a bit of a confusion, and I want you to clear that up. Did Jordan Belfort work for you, or did you learn from Jordan Belfort?
So in 1987, Jordan Belfort came to work at a place called D.H. Blair, 44 Wall Street. J. Morton Davidovich, he's like number 40 on the Forbes list today, billionaire list. He was one of my mentors, a very serious guy. Morty Shakin, he's known as Morty Davis, basically created NASDAQ.
Okay.
A brilliant, brilliant banker, trader, broker, the whole thing. And I went to work there in 1986, and I became the number 2 or number 3 broker during my time there, making $200,000 a month. I was fucked up, I was taking drugs. I was doing a lot of drugs, drinking a lot, but I became a very, very successful broker there. I did millions of dollars in business. We did an IPO a week. Michael Falk, who was the number 1 broker, today lives on a private island in Palm Beach. Helicopter, he's a billionaire. Great guy. Michael Shakin. I wrote a book about, Michael's in my book, Rock Solid. I mention him. He gave me the secret to being the most successful. I'll share that with you. But it's in my book, Rock Solid, available on my website, rossmandell.com, Shopify store, etc. I'm teaching a course, The Wealth Formula, also available for sale, the most comprehensive business course ever written. So Jordy Belfort came in as a cold caller. They paid him $1,000 a month, $250 a week.
Wow.
He comes on. He worked for Michael Falk and my friend Stephen Freifeld. Stevie, what's shaking, baby? Stevie is a partner of mine today and one of my closest friends for 45 years. We've done 20 deals together. Never a deal under $5 or $10 million ever. And Jordy came in as a trainee. I'm making $200,000 a month. He was cold calling for Michael Falk, and in exchange for dialing the phone 300 times a day, getting leads, etc., we put him through school, Series 7 school. That we bring in teachers, and they would teach him after the close from like 4 to 6, 4 to 7. And Jordy took his test, sponsored by D.H. Blair. He was a cold caller. Jordy then passes the test, Series 7.
Yeah.
He resigns, and he goes to work for a old line member firm that you see in the movie.
Okay.
And he went to work. They had the Matthew McConaughey character,
Yep.
which would, a lot of that's dramatized. It's not true. We found out right here in the studio. We had Danny Porsche, the Jonah Hill character, for the first time ever to share the true story, and he's coming back next Tuesday for Q&A. Everybody wants to see more. So Jordy was a kid to me. He was just a kid running around the office like, a cold caller. He probably knew exactly who I was. I was a big bull stockbroker, doing all kinds of business. I'm like a rock star, Mercedes convertible, $30 million in my account in 1987. I went from $1,500 to $30 million from 1983 to 1987. And that's fact documented and all that. So Jordy was a kid. He gets trained. Then he leaves. And his first day on the phones over there was October 19th, 1987. That was Black Monday. If you follow the movie, that was true. Yep. And then his firm closed 3 weeks later.
Wow.
So then he goes back to his...
Did you ever cross paths with Jordy later on in your life?
Correct. I have, yes.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so one day I had heard about him because, they were basically running a criminal enterprise, and I was doing real business.
Interesting.
But I'm a wreck. After 87, I watched my personal worth go from $30 million to $3 million in like less than a month.
Yeah.
And then the markets were terrible. The firms were going in and out of business. Like 200-year-old firms were going out of business, shutting their doors. All true. And it was so bad. I was about to leave the business, and I was going to buy a discotheque in Tel Aviv for $100,000. Today it probably costs $5 million, but it was a beautiful place. My brother had emigrated to Israel in the 80s, He was a journalist. He was the editor of the Jerusalem Post, all these different things. And so I loved it. It was a great scene. I saw it was on the come up. I always like to buy things, get involved with things when they're on the come up, not
You're
when
a
they're
trader.
established.
You're a trader.
I recognize value.
Yeah.
I recognize value, and I'm very good at it. I'll never say things about myself. I speak the truth. There's one or two things I'm really good at. Everything else, I'm just a regular, normal person. A lot of things I suck at, just so you know. I tried to give you my password for the
Wi-Fi.
yeah, and I struggle with technology and all these things. But at some things, I am gifted. Just a few things. And I believe everybody's gifted at a couple of things. And if you focus on what you're gifted, you're going to be very successful.
Sure.
And you're going to have fun. Because if you're doing what you're good at, it's fun. If you're doing things that you're not good at, it's work. I don't ever advise anyone to work.
So you go from 30 million to 3 million.
Right.
What happens?
I feel like I'm destitute, broke. I had just left the firm, D.H. Blair, October 1st, 1987. I took a check from Paul Ruthfeld and Abe Borenstein at 2 Penn Plaza, Prudential-based securities.
They gave you sign-on bonus.
$350,000 upfront money. The check cleared. I took it on the 1st. The check cleared the account on the 7th. On the 25th, 1 week after the crash, they sent me a letter asking for the money back because market conditions had changed. And I said no. And so they tried to make it difficult for me to do, to be there. So I said, fuck you, I'm leaving. So I just left, resigned. 7 years later, exactly at the day the statute of limitations ends, they put a lawsuit against me in arbitration. It's all record, public record. I settled that for $5,000, like 7 years later.
Okay.
8 years later. It's a good trade. I got $350. The market crashed, and 7 years later, I paid them back $5,000.
So what happens with Jordan Belfort at that time?
So I get sober, and that's how bad the market was. I actually got sober. If you guys party, you understand what I'm talking about. It was so bad by 1990, I just got sober. I checked myself into Silver Hill.
Wow.
And I get out. I had been seeing a girl named Ginger. Okay, she's a little older than me. She was like a fancy, great-looking, wonderful, human being, pretty, sexy, smart, and we'd seen each other a little bit during my party days, and I got clean, and she had called me, and we dated a little bit. I went to her son's bar mitzvah, like the Waldorf Astoria, as a date, but she had watched the rise of this Stratton Oakmont and this Jordan Belfort. They were bringing companies public at $5, $7, karate schools, and they were going to 25. And these guys were making millions of dollars and partying and spending. It's fun when you're doing that kind of business. But I was newly sober, and I was committed to doing things a different way. So she calls me up one day and says, "Listen," so I was supposed to see her. She goes, "I've been trying to get you to meet this guy Jordan." And I didn't remember him from the Blair days. I learned afterwards, years after the movie came out, that my friends brought him into business and trained him and all that. But I was there.
Yep.
And she said, "We're going to Ciao Bella for dinner." That's on 2nd Avenue and 78th Street. I'm giving you actual dates. I'm actually giving you locations, okay? And she says, "Jordan's going to meet us there." She's trying to hook me up because she says, "A guy like you could go there, you could make $1 million a month." And I would have. And I had Danny here to confirm a story that I'm about to tell you. First time ever told. And she says, "I have a girlfriend named Nadine. She's a lingerie model. She lives in Brooklyn. And I'm going to hook her up with Jordan tonight. They're going to meet." I said, "Okay." So Ginger and Nadine and myself go to Ciao Bella. Jordy's sitting there by himself. This Nadine is stone cold gorgeous. Just a beautiful girl. She's still a beautiful girl, a beautiful woman, all these years later. And we have dinner. And Jordy is pitching me on Stratton Oakmont. And, we spent about 3-4 hours there. He didn't want to leave because Nadine was like, it was like a bomb went off. He was infatuated. I found out later he was still married and all that kind of thing. And he invited us to a party he was throwing in the Hamptons that weekend.
Okay.
I thought he owned the house, but he was renting the house.
Got it.
Him and 3 guys. Mark Hanna, Danny Porsche, and Jordy were renting that house. And they threw big parties, and everybody was getting stoned and having a ball and just living it up. Good for them. But they were stealing. That's the bad thing. The money was it was like a criminal enterprise. They were just taking. They were creating paper companies and
Yeah.
telling investors that they were amazing, and they were doing pump and dump, classic basic stuff, nothing fancy, nothing clever. They were kids, and so that was and he spent that time with me. A few weeks later, I'm walking on Third Avenue, leaving a meeting with a lawyer, or I was at a bar or something, and I'm sober, newly sober. It's 1991, I believe, and a big stretch limo comes flying by me and slams on the brakes, skids, and then goes in reverse, and the window comes down, and it's Danny Porish, my childhood friend.
He's your childhood friend.
We all grew up together.
Interesting.
Everybody that ran Stratton, Lawrence High School, class of 75. And we're all going to get together soon because we're having a 50-year reunion. And the committee is just calling everybody. Danny Porish, Steve Madden.
Yep.
He's one of our guys. Brian Frank ran Stratton, Oakmont, Jordan Shama. All these guys worked there. And Danny brought them all in and this and that. And the window comes down. I get in the limo. And Danny offers me $100,000 a month just to run Stratton. He knew of my reputation. He knew everything. We all follow each other as because we grew up together and all that. And he offered me a limo, a driver. He said it's a reverse commute because they were on Long Island. I lived in Manhattan. They'd pick me up in the morning, drop my limo, drop me off at Stratton, drive me back home at night, pay me $100,000 cash. And then whatever commissions I would do, and I was doing like $500,000 a month, $300,000 a month, whatever it was, give me 100% of that. And I would have made a lot of money. And when I got sober, I owed money. I was in debt, $1 million, $1 million plus, to be honest.
To who? To friends, family, or?
No, from American Express and MasterCard. And,
Right.
I didn't pay rent and all these different things. And all the advice I got was to declare bankruptcy. Everybody was doing it. But I refused because I didn't get clean. I didn't get sober. I didn't, try and change my life to cheat and to cut shortcuts and all that. I paid back every nickel. And they built back a perfect credit score. And now I'm doing it again. But I don't owe any money, luckily.
What is one thing you regret the most? Like, if you could go back and look at your life right now, if there was a glass bowl here and you looked at that bowl and every mistake, every sad moment, which moment do you wish that you could either erase, remove, or never repeat again?
I would have had a different attorney when the feds came in that day. What I wanted to do was go right into the U.S. attorney and say, what the fuck is going on? What happened? I'm not a crook. I would have worked it out. I wasn't doing anything wrong. And they would have known that. Maybe we wrote a check. Maybe I had to fire these guys, get them lawyers, you know what I mean? Maybe I would have something. And I realize now that's what they wanted me to do. They never intended to go to trial on all those things. That's not what the government wants to do. They want to get their pound of flesh and move on. When you go to trial, you challenge, you try and maintain your, you're punished for that. So all the guys in my case that actually committed the crime spent 1 day in jail. 1 day. Did probation. I got 12 years because I fought them. You can't fight the government. There's a saying, you can't fight City Hall. That's true. Just don't get indicted, everybody. But if there's something I could do differently, and I'll tell you people, I would have had more kids.
You would have more kids.
I would have had more children because it's the most beautiful thing. And as you get older, that's what it's all about. It's about your children and your family and your legacy and all those things. Because we come here into this world and we leave this world. And I'm 67. I told you I've done 33 twice. It's like a blink of an eye. When I share these stories with you, bro, I was just 33 years old. I was just, it was just March 87. I had $30 million in my account. I mean, I would have sold everything before the crash. I would have sold all it. I would have went to the beach. That's what I would have, and made babies. I would have done that differently.
Trading is all about decision making.
Correct.
What are the top 3 decisions a man or a woman need to make in their life that will benefit them the most?
Okay. It's really important. That's a great question. Emotion. Emotions lie. God gave us an intellect that separates us from the animals. You have to, when you make decisions to buy, to sell, to invest or not, to go or not into some venture, This is about entrepreneurship. Emotions lie. Okay, feelings are not facts. So when something looks great, it's our emotion to get in, to be involved. A crowded bar, a hopping party. The stock market is roaring right now. Jumping in. NVIDIA is 150 a share. I bought it at 100. It went to 2,000, split 10 for 1. And now it's back to 150. I recommend Palantir, Peter Thiel's company, amazing. I just recommended it to people at 22, 19. It just went to 60. Everybody's jumping and buying it, 58, 59. I say, sell. When it looks great, you got to become a seller. When something looks like dog shit, when somebody's on the come up, you got to get in. When somebody's already big, established, trading on their name and their reputation, get the fuck out. Okay? And that's the important thing to know. So when I look at a deal, when I look at a guy, I make an assessment where you're at in your life. And if I feel you're on your way up, I'm interested. If you already have a big name and a big office and a fancy house and all these different things, I'm going to take a pass or I'm going to sell. Because, now you're trading on I want the guy that lived in an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment, and now he's living in a $10 million house. I don't want you when you're living in a $10 million house.
You think Tom Brady was more valuable when he won his fourth championship or when he was drafted?
There were exceptions to every rule. Tom Brady is the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Mahomes might be. Football is a brutally violent game.
Sure.
Tom Brady survived all those years. He missed one season. They killed him. He blew his knee. New Orleans still did well that year because Belichick's great. And, he is the GOAT. So he's still valuable. I bet you he could suit up now and still be the top 3 quarterbacks in the league. I mean, this is a guy that's a special guy.
So I believe I'm great at sales. So I want an answer. Do you think he was more valuable at the draft time or when he won his fourth championship?
More valuable.
Yeah.
You see, value is a subjective question. More valuable to who?
To the market.
Well, clearly when he was drafted, he was sixth level. It was like a 6th-round pick. He was a 0.
Right.
Okay. By the time he won his 4th championship, he's you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So from a value standpoint, if you got him at the beginning for nothing, that's value, right? It's not a trick question. It's obvious.
But I'm referring back to what you said. If it looks like dog shit, that's when you're
I'm
interested.
interested.
When it's already big office, shining,
Correct.
blah, 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 run.
Correct. So based on that general principle,
Sure.
it's a general principle. Like I would still tell you, if you didn't have any NVIDIA and you wanted to buy, I'd say buy it now. NVIDIA is an exception.
Yep.
Okay, Brady's an exception. You're talking about the greatest of all time.
Understood.
He's an exception to that rule. But if you're just looking at value from a mathematical standpoint, you take out all emotion. You get Tom Brady in the 6th round, you pay him no money, he wins the Super Bowl his first year. I mean, what? You can't go wrong with that, right? So, if you're just talking about pure value and you're trying to you're hypothecating that to some mathematical equation.
Yep.
6th rounds are epic. You paid nothing for him. What value? He ends up winning. He's going to 10 Super Bowl. I mean, he won 10 AFC Championship games. How many playoff games has he won? I mean, the guy's he's an exception to the rule.
So emotions are
Dangerous.
What would be the second principle?
For business or for life?
Whatever 3 decisions that a human can make that's going to benefit them. So one decision is don't rely on emotions, right?
Okay. Number 2, I told you earlier, I know a lot of guys that live the perfect life.
Yep.
From they're in kindergarten. We were out, come on, let's go play. We're playing football on the street or soccer, and I'm home, I'm doing my homework.
Sure.
I'm studying, I'm reading. They go
Right.
to they come out of school, they're on honor roll, they're on the dean's list, they're a member of the chess club. They
The
do all the
Goody
right
George,
things.
yeah.
They go to they join the best clubs, they go to great neighborhoods. Some of them become lawyers, doctors, traders, CPAs. They become professionals. They live their life carefully.
Yep.
And one of the worst mistakes I've seen, a lot of these perfect sort of guys with the perfect sort of life trajectories, they pick the wrong partner. If you're a man, they marry the wrong woman.
Yeah.
If they're a woman, they get involved with the wrong man.
Okay.
Who your life partner is going to be,
Very important.
the mother of your children or the father of your children,
Yep.
is the most important decision.
I agree.
And so that's really, really critical, because it's hard to be wonderful in business when you have to give this bad woman half.
Yes.
And she keeps dragging you to court every year.
Yep.
She wants more, and she's serving you at depositions and accusing you of all these different things. I've seen this in real life. I married the perfect woman. I was 41. She was 25. She was beautiful. I'm beautiful, perfect on the outside. Even more beautiful on the inside. I'm Stephanie. And she gave me 2 amazing children that weathered the storm with daddy away for 9 years and 4 months and accused of all kinds of horrible things in the newspapers and on TV and all that.
That's powerful. She's a powerful woman.
So you have to be very selective. That's someone you share your life with, your
Yes.
children with, your bed with, your house, the whole thing.
1,000%.
And so I think that's probably the most important decision. And again, when you're making that decision, you have to take emotion out of it. Date her, sleep with her, live with her, but don't marry her. Marriage is
Commitment.
well, it's more than it's a legal commitment. It's a union, but it's a legal commitment.
And when you say legal commitment, you're referring to obviously financial aspect of it.
There's a lot of finance to it, correct? It's a
Right.
legal contract, and in this country and in many states, it's 50-50. So you can spend your whole life building the perfect business, and she's taking half.
Right.
If you marry the wrong woman. And she could destroy the business because of the accusations they make. I mean, divorce law is one of the dirtiest things in the world. Everybody knows this that has been exposed to it. It's horrible.
Yep.
And, it's something that, when I was away, I begged my wife to divorce me, and she wouldn't do it. Finally, after 7 years, she did. And, but there were no lawyers involved. We're too smart for that. Why let the lawyers take all the money? It's
Right.
crazy. And so pick the right partner, the right life partner. Have a lot of fun.
Sure.
Have a lot of fun. I'm a fun guy. I
Yeah,
believe that
yeah.
that's the next thing I'm going to tell you. You have to have fun. You have to enjoy your life. And I'll say like this, Albert. Everybody dies. Not one of you people out there is going to live forever. We're all going to die.
Yes.
Not everybody lives, bro.
Yes.
Not everybody lives. People sit back. They didn't do this. I wish I would have done that. My wife's father, he passed away when I was inside, but Carmine's son, I loved him very much. He wanted to buy a pizza place. He was pitched by his Italian family. They came over from Sorrento. They came to New York City, the Bronx, and they wanted to open a pizza place. And they said, you just got to put up like $10,000. And he had the money. The money's sitting in a shoebox.
Wow.
He was a Teamster. He drove a truck. And he didn't do it. He chickened out. And they put up $10,000, and they made millions over the years, and went back to the old country, and now they have a hotel in Sorrento and all these different things. And he would talk about all this regret he had. And so, emotion is very, very dangerous. And you gotta take shots in life. You gotta go out there and you gotta try and live. Don't live with regret. Go for it.
Love it.
And I believe one of the things you must do is you have to have fun. Life is about enjoying it. You want to be. You want to enjoy life. It shouldn't be a fucking drudgery.
Right.
You know what I mean? I work, I produce, I have fun. I have too much fun, maybe.
Some people may say, oh, I'm going to take Ross's advice and I'm broke. I live paycheck to paycheck. I have kids. Rather than going out there and providing, protecting, and serving my community and my family, I'm going to go have fun. Can you clarify why first it's important to take care of your priority, then have fun?
I believe that taking care of your priorities is fun. I make it fun.
Got it.
This is it. This is your life, Albert.
Yeah.
This is not a dress rehearsal.
Right. You have one.
You don't get a do-over.
You know what I say? I say you can, you can play with your life, but you cannot replay your life.
that's it. Time is a commodity, bro. We're never going to get this day back. I'm glad we're meeting and doing this.
Yes.
I hope you guys are listening to this.
Yeah.
You know, get in there, dig in, but make it fun. It's fun. Fun is not a 4-letter word. Work is a 4-letter word. Fun is what you're entitled in this life to enjoy.
Yeah.
It's free to laugh, to smile, to do a nice thing for somebody. It's free. Hold the door open for somebody. Pick up some shit on the floor if someone drops a candy wrapper.
Absolutely.
You know, it's live your life, but enjoy life. Don't dread. If you're dreading what you do, you're doing the wrong thing.
That's right. That's right. And at one point, you had a net worth of $150+ million.
They say close to 350 because my company had 200 million.
Sure,
Correct.
Sure. And then at one point, now, based on what government says, you're at 0, right?
Correct.
So tell me what's the biggest lesson you learned being at the top, and what's the biggest lesson you learned when you lost it all?
So one of the things that, you know, is surprising to me and surprising to other people, they would say bullshit. Because when I was young and I heard things like this, I didn't believe it. But when I was my wealthiest, when I had the most money, it was not the best times in my life. The best times in my life, when I look back, were when I was probably broke and I was struggling. I was on the come up. Being at some destination is a dangerous place to be. Being on the come up is exciting.
Yep.
And I would urge that your listeners to understand that. If you're living paycheck to paycheck right now and you're breaking your ass trying to put food on the table, I mean, this inflation's crazy. Look what these people did to our economy. Horrible. And you're on a fixed income or a paycheck. I would urge you not. I never worked for a paycheck, ever. I never wanted somebody to tell me how much I could make.
Right.
So even when I got a check, I had a commission job.
That's right.
I never ever just said, you know, 50 grand a year. That's it. 1,000. What if I want a new car?
Limitations.
No such thing for me.
Yeah.
So get a side hustle. You know, for the first time in history, you could go online and meet a guy like me, meet a guy like Albert, go meet a guy like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Andy Elliott, Brad Lee,
right.
Justin Waller. You could get Ty Lopez. You have the ability to reach out from your home, from your phone, and talk to some of the greatest salespeople, the greatest marketing people,
yes,
the greatest wealth managers, the greatest stock traders in history.
Yep.
You can reach them and pay a few dollars and learn from the greatest that ever lived.
I agree.
I want you to understand that never before in history has this been available.
Right.
When I was a kid, when I was a young man, when I was on the come up, I would knock on doors and say, "Excuse me, can I sit in your office and take notes?" And that's how I learned how to become a great stockbroker. From the greatest.
Too many people have a big ego and small pockets.
Well,
and they're not willing to do that.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to tell you, if I would have been growing up in this age, I'd be hawking guys like me, guys like you, Brad Lee. Are you kidding? You can reach out and be mentored.
Yes.
I had to chase people around and ask questions and say, "Can I sit and can I take notes? Can I follow? How did you do?" I go up to guys in clubs and say, "Excuse me, who are you?"
Right.
Oh, my name's Justin. I said, "Justin, I saw you walk in. They opened the ropes for you. You got the most beautiful girl sitting next to you. You came up in a beautiful car. You got the best table. You drink Cristal champagne. How'd you get this spot?
Right.
Who are you?" Men love talking about themselves. And the most driven, most successful men love that. And people talk and ask questions. I teach my kids this, and it's very effective. And you guys should all listen. Who are you? How did you do this? Explain to me. I want to know what they know. And I'm a very big believer in monkey see, monkey do.
I agree.
Albert, if you can do it, and you'll let me watch you, or you'll teach me, I can do it.
Yeah, people learn different ways. You know, they learn visual. They learn by doing it with someone. You know, there's different ways to be able to learn to do it. And most important thing for me is, do you have an open mind and willingness to follow the lead? Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best soccer players, says, "I will give you the map, but will you fucking do it?"
Correct.
Because right now we live in the world of information. We live where
you can get it for free. For free. I never had this. It's crazy.
And we have the generation that's the most laziest, uncommitted, and now willing to bleed, suffer, and go through the pain to make it. And that's the problem. And that's why it's so easy to win in this world today, because there's so many weak, mentally weak, physically weak people.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, the messages come from the top. I believe that the people in the government want our population distracted. It's because they're slowly taking away our freedoms.
Yeah.
I'm living it, I lived it. I'm a real example of a guy that's fought it and got beat, and now I'm on the come up again. But I just want to say that, yeah, we got soft. They say that hard times make strong people.
Yep.
And strong people make good times.
Yep.
But good times make weak people.
That's right.
And weak people make hard times. And America's weak. Our population is weak. And that's a problem because we had so many good times. Good times make weak people. It's a cycle. Now you've got, I believe, some really strong people at the top in America. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen. America has spoken loudly. This election was a landslide. It was an eruption. It was, we don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic. However, we practice democracy and we practice capitalism. All that's nonsense and garbage. It's been reduced by people in charge. And now we have these new leaders who I hold in the highest regard. And I believe that they're going to tear this Washington apart, and they're going to restore the kind of drive that you were just referring to, that weak people don't understand or unwilling. And it is easy to win. You're not really competing with much right now. And I'm talking to a lot of the guys that I grew up with in the stock market that never went through what I went through. They have worth $1 billion, $200 million, $150 million, serious men. And they're powers of example, but they want to lay low. They don't want people coming after them. They don't want to become targets. That's what happens when you're in the public eye. You become a bit of a target.
You were at the top. You were at the bottom. Tell me more about someone that has it all. Is there ever enough?
It depends. So, I'm an addict. I talked openly about my addiction to drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And I got sober, okay?
Yeah.
I'm a sober addict. I'm still an addict. And my drug of choice has always been more.
More, okay.
When I speak at meetings and conferences, my drug of choice is more. I want more. Anything that makes me feel good. In the beginning of The Wolf of Wall Street, Leo looks at his desk and he talks about his disease, his habit. It's not drugs, and he takes the dollar bill out and he shows it to the audience, the 100 or whatever it is, the Benjamin. So I believe that you need to bring healthy things into your life and
indulge in those.
Indulge in those. And you look at a guy like Elon Musk. What drives him? He's building ships to go to Mars, spaceships.
Yeah.
Is he ever going to have enough? He's the richest man in the world by tens of billions. I don't think. It all depends on what your purpose is. He's got many children. He's got ex-wives.
Mm-hmm.
He's got successful companies. He's the electric car and PayPal and now SpaceX, all these great things. He's my hero. He's an amazing guy. He's going to go down as the most incredible man in a generation.
What does greed mean to you?
Greed is it's a passion. Greed for life, greed for money, greed for material things.
Is it healthy or unhealthy?
It depends on how it manifests itself. So I met a young man yesterday, really. I had met him previously, but I met him for the first time in person. And he has a greed for more connection, more introspection. He's going to Tulum to do silent meditation for 2 weeks. Yoga stuff, but you can't talk for 2 weeks. You're forced to go inside yourself. So he's greedy for self-improvement. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, probably a good thing, unless he's doing it for an excuse, for an escape. I don't know him well enough to say. But, greed for life, greed for health. I know people that are running around to doctors and they're getting stem cells and they're dealing with Gary Brecka and Tony Robbins as a stem cell. I mean, these people are trying to get healthy. It's a lust or greed. These are sins on their face, but it depends how they apply themselves, how you manifest, okay? A greed for nice suits, a greed to be groomed. I want to be groomed the best. Look at how you're groomed. I mean, everything is like, you're manicured, you're curated. And that's part of your salesmanship.
Yep.
Everything is selling. How you dress, socks
Absolutely.
and no socks, the brand of shoes you're wearing, okay? Gold versus silver treatments. I look at everything, okay? I touched your suit when I met you. Firstly, I thought it was a jacket. I didn't even notice it was an actual suit. He's a hot guy, guys.
Thank you.
And you're manicured, you smile, the way you beard, the way you do these things. People don't know. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
We have to sit there and we have to look in the mirror and all these different things and make sure we have the line right. And your hair, I was like, it looks fake. It's so well done. These are all, that's you selling. You're selling an image.
Absolutely.
To the world. You looked in the mirror today before you left your hotel and said, man, I fucking look good, man.
That's
I'm
right.
going to meet that fucking guy, man. I'm going to look my best. I'm just saying, So, all these things, is it bad? Is it bad that you have such a passion or greed for presenting yourself? It's a healthy manifestation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
How you do one thing is how you do everything. And to me,
I live by that.
to me, it's the level of excellence I want to lead by. If I'm going to sit down with Ross Mandell, who talked about, dress for success, who talked about representation, image, I don't want to show up with a stain on my shirt because that says a lot about who I am. And then that makes me not worthy to sit down with you. So I need to have my game up. I need to be able to I'm a magnet. I'm going to attract people based on who I am. So therefore, when I walk into the room, people's going to know, okay, this guy knows how to take care of himself. That means he pays attention to detail. That means he cares. And I want people to know that I do care and I want to be able to operate at a highest standard. So thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that. You're not a stranger to dressing nice. You have every color suit, from prior
I've got every single Zegna suit, Brioni suit.
So you know exactly what we're talking about.
I'm going to give you one little critique, if I may.
Please.
Is it okay?
Sure.
Okay. Your last name.
Shakhnazarov.
I mean, that's not a healthy name in business.
No.
It's very difficult.
No.
I tried to pronounce your name 100 different times because I want to be practiced for you, and I gave up.
Absolutely.
And I find out it's actually Armenian, and there's no I-N.
Yeah. If that's the only critique, I think
that's my only criticism.
I think I did pretty good then.
Better than pretty good. But I would shorten the name and come up with a business name.
Understood.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
But that's just me.
I appreciate that.
It's just a little thing because you are a serious young man.
Yes.
And you're on a very serious trajectory. And just my quick judgment of you is you're a special guy.
Thank you.
And, you're 33, you're a full-grown man, but to me, you're still a young man.
Oh, yeah.
The scary thing is everybody's a young man.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Getting old is interesting. But you're a serious guy, and you're on a serious trajectory. And I know you have, and this again, I'm your guest today, but you run a very serious program.
Yep.
And you have a great reputation, because I checked.
Thank you.
And I didn't really know what to expect. I really mean that.
It means a lot.
And, you're on the come up. I want you all to know there's great things coming from this young man. I mean, some people could look at what you've done already and who you are and say, all right, he's already there. He's arrived. But I don't think so. I think you have an appetite. You understand more.
If success was the moon, I'm up to my ankles.
I love that.
So,
I used to say, the sky's the limit. Don't tell me the sky's the limit because there were footprints on the moon.
That's right.
I love
that. That's right.
The sky was my thing. That was one of our sayings, the sky's the limit. It's very funny.
We run different groups, and one of the biggest questions that came up, and this will be the last question I want to ask you today, is what does Ross Mandell want to be remembered for and how?
I love that. Thank you for asking that question. Thank you for not giving me any warning. I don't mean that. I've been approached by a company called Raw Media brand new company, and it's the new media for the new age. Social media. The youngsters understand this and have for a while. It takes the men on top a while to understand the changing of the guard. Corporate media is dead, as you know it. When Donald Trump wanted to address the world before the election, he didn't go on 60 Minutes. He didn't go on ABC, NBC, CBS. He didn't go on Netflix. He went to Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yes.
He got 30 million downloads in 12 hours. It was so crazy that Google actually pushed it back. That's the new media for the new age.
Yep.
It's raw media, just like we're doing right now. We can curse. We can talk square and straight. I have nobody censoring me. There's no agenda. We're just rapping with two men rapping, two alpha male types, talking it out, trying to get some feedback, some truths for your audience, and be as entertaining as we can.
Yep.
If we care to be. We might not care to be. That's the beautiful thing about the new media. So I'm engaged by Raw Media and have an opportunity to help build that company and make it something really special.
It's amazing.
And I'm a raw guy. I always have been. And my initials are RM. When I saw Raw Media, I said, what a great idea.
Yeah.
Because RM, and I don't have to change my luggage if I go with this company. And understanding new media, podcasting, a new talent, introducing new talent this way via social media, via all the channels that you know and we know. You said groups, you're referencing Facebook and groups, and there's Instagram, and there's TikTok, and there's Snapchat, and there's LinkedIn, and there's X, and there'll be more soon. And there's streaming, and you see Jake Paul is fighting Mike Tyson in one of the most amazingly spectacular. I don't even know what to call it. It's not really a boxing match. It's an event. It's a big event.
Entertainment.
Worldwide event, right?
Yeah.
And it's on Netflix. Mm-hmm. It's on Netflix Friday night.
Yeah.
Okay? So Netflix was a bunch of guys 20 years ago stuffing DVDs in envelopes and going to UPS from their garage. And now it's one of the biggest companies in the world. Because they're not burdened with legacy debt. They don't have leases and insurance payments and retirement accounts that they're responsible for funding from having hundreds of thousands of square feet in these buildings all around the world. They're paying rents and this and that. They have, when you look at their balance sheets, they're burdened with legacy debt, legacy issues. Raw Media has no debt, no issues, doesn't need $100,000 worth of equipment in every little studio. You come in here, bing, bang, boom. We're using iPhones, for God's sake, not even the new ones. This whole thing costs nothing, and we can reach 1 billion people in theory.
That's right.
Okay? How could you not want to play in raw media, in new media, if you're an investor or if you're somebody that has any vision? This is the way to go. And, I always like to say, as an investor, as a value trader, a player in that market, that arena, I'm pretty well known for being very successful. I never like to be the first in. I want to see that it works, proof of concept.
Sure.
But I certainly don't want to be
the last one.
Well, wouldn't even go in.
Yeah.
But I want to be in the top 10, first 10% to really come in. I want to see what worked, what didn't work.
Yep.
I don't want to. The wheel works fine. How do I fix my wheel up a little bit? Different spokes, different treads, etc.
Sure.
The greatest wealth is created not by innovation, but by imitation. You find something that works and you bring it somewhere they don't have it. Think about McDonald's opening up in Russia. Kentucky Fried Chicken has 2,600 stores in China.
Sure.
They sold more chicken in China than anywhere else in the world.
Love that.
Starbucks in Paris. Think about that. You can't fail. It works.
Right.
You might have to just taper it a little bit, French coffee, French espresso, whatever it is. A Chinese eating Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'd like to see that, with my own eyes, but this is the truth. So that's what I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered. Forbes did a big story on me. They've written 30 on me on Forbes.com, etc.
Sure.
They came to my trial every day. They wrote 3-4 stories of me when I was incarcerated in prison. And But they wrote published a story on me in '05. They said it's Ross Mandell's second act. Because March 14th, 1996, the Wall Street Journal wrote about my first act.
Sure.
My drug addiction. Biggest story in the history of the Wall Street Journal. 5,250 words. Dow Jones Corporation owned the Wall Street Journal, the #1 selling newspaper in the world. They wrote my life story on the front page. It was a story meant to indict me, and it didn't work. And I went on to have a tremendous career up until, but it stayed in the file. And the regulators never forgot. When the first chance they had to jump on me, they did. But Forbes wrote, this is my second act. Can a leopard change his spots? The senators quoted that he has. It said Ross Mandell is back with a flair, selling stocks and buying politicians. That's all true. I bought politicians. I sold stocks. Nothing wrong with it. Perfectly legal. Just the way it goes, and everyone's doing it, just so you know, in Washington. I didn't invent it. That was my second act. Well, this is my third act, and this is my final act, and this is how I want to be remembered. Building a new media company, telling my story and other stories. I want to have you on my podcast.
I would love that.
And I want to understand a little bit more about who this well-dressed, this perfectly coiffed man is.
Thank you.
I'm sitting with the beautiful smile and the whole thing.
Thank you.
So this is what I believe is the future for communications and media in this country. When a guy like Jose Aristimuño wants to get a message out for his party and his beliefs, he'll have the ability to reach millions of people.
You want to give people the voice.
For no money.
Yeah.
For no money. For the price of an iPhone. For the price of a Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah.
That's the new media. Not the legacy nonsense. CNN up for sale. They're laying off all their talent. MSNBC up for sale, laying off all their high-priced talent.
Right.
Okay, because those were tools of certain people in government and agenda. It didn't work out, and they realize it now. Now they're trying to pivot. Good luck trying to unwind something like CNN, MSNBC. Legacy issues. That's what I look for in a balance sheet. You show me a clean balance sheet with a great business plan with real players, I'm in. They can't fail.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
So that's where I want to be remembered as for my third and final act.
I love it.
I want to do something great.
I love it.
That's
Russ,
my
thank you
plan.
so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you, and we really hope that your true story goes out there and really, what you said, clear your name.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate you. Pleasure and a privilege to meet you and sit with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.